What's up, folks, and welcome in. It's the freaky Halloween edition of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm your host, Wade Neely, along with Mo Patton here, producer Mark, bringing the magic and bringing us in. Mo, are you there this Thursday?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
We hear you, brother.
Okay, cool.
Mo is in the house. He's ready to rock.
Well, I'm in the house. I don't know that I'm ready to rock, but we're going to try to get through this Throwback Thursday as best we can. Had some technical issues there that maybe we have overcome, but yeah, I like the Halloween motif, Mark. Good job, man. Good stuff. Wade, are you Pooh? What are you today?
Pooh Bear in the house. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured. Nice. All right, out in the 100-acre wood of Pulaski. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios, and again, glad to be with you here for the next couple of hours. I am particularly glad to be with you here for the next couple of hours, and that you can hear me. So, going to be bringing you sports talk of local, regional, and national import, and looking forward to doing so. In hour number 2, we'll be joined by Ben Arthur of Fox Sports, talking a little Titans, a little AFC South. In our next segment, we will be joined by Green Hill football coach Josh Crouch, whose 9-0 Hawks will host 9-0 Mount Juliet for the Region 4 6A championship tonight. Little crosstown rivalry there, and obviously a high-powered matchup there. So we'll be talking to Coach Crouch in Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley in the next segment. It is Throwback Thursday. We'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with Dr. Alan SILLS, Chief Medical Officer of the National Football League, and looking forward to revisiting that. We'll also talk a little World Series, obviously, since it's over. Not without some drama, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And talking a little NFL, we got Thursday night football tonight. I'm sure Wade doesn't exactly want to be reminded of it, but it is the Jets and the Texans going at it up in East Rutherford later tonight. And we got some college football, got some hockey. So plenty to get to, and looking forward to doing so. Wade, I appreciate you bringing us in because, like I said, I was struggling. Hopefully we're past that at this point.
Yeah, man, it's smooth sailing from here on out. We'll dive in. We'll get the candy handed out tonight. We'll get some region championships handed out tonight and tomorrow, and we'll catch a little other sports ball in between now and then.
Sports ball, I like it. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Let's kick the rundown off by winding it back to Wednesday. And light schedule last night, but some scores of interest. And so we'll dive into those right now. NBA action, it was the Nets defeating the Grizzlies. 119-106 was your final. Tough loss there for the Grizz. More on them later. Women's basketball action as UT Martin picks up a 71-40 victory over Trevecca. Good win for the Skyhawks there. And as Mo mentioned a moment ago, Major League Baseball, the Dodgers cap it off with a crazy game. Wild finish. Wild night on the base pass. Halloween came a day early for the Yankees in the field. And so the Dodgers win that game 7-6. They win the series 4-1. The Los Angeles Dodgers are your World Series champions. That was last night's results.
Absolutely. Tonight's high school football schedule. And we got a few games on Thursday night. Laverne traveling to Antioch. All these are 7 o'clock kickoffs. Clarksville is at Clarksville Northeast. Blackman goes to Coffee County. Cookeville hosting Wilson Central. Christ Presbyterian Academy goes to Davidson Academy. Pope John Paul II is at Franklin Road Academy. As we mentioned, Mount Juliet travels to Green Hill. Greenbrier hosting Montgomery Central. Harpeth is at Hickman County. Jackson County hosting East Robertson. It's Kirkwood hosting West Creek. Gallatin is at Lebanon. Mount Pleasant travels to Loretto tonight. We'll have coverage of that one later at mainstreetmurray.com. Pearl Cone is at Marshall County. Stewart's Creek travels to McGavock. Oakland is at Riverdale. That's a big one as well. Oakland coming off that overtime loss last week to Ravenwood. Republic and Maplewood were scheduled to play, but as we've noted in previous weeks, Republic has forfeited out the remainder of their schedule, so Maplewood gets credited with a 1-0 victory in that one. Cane Ridge is at Smyrna tonight at 7. East Hickman is at Summertown. Creekwood goes to White House, and Station Camp is at Whites Creek.
That brings us into the remainder of your schedule tonight. Men's college basketball. The game will be played up in Owensboro, Kentucky, as Fisk travels to Brescia. That game comes your way at 7:30 p.m. tonight. Hockey at Bridgestone Arena this evening as the Oilers come to town. The Preds and the Oilers will get it on at 7 p.m. You can see that game on either ESPN Plus or Hulu. At 7 p.m. tonight over in Memphis, the back-to-back Grizzlies will look to put last night's loss behind them, but they welcome the Bucks to town again. Memphis hosting Milwaukee tonight. 7 p.m. will be your tip-off time. NBA TV and FanDuel Sports South will be where you can see that contest. And as Mo mentioned a moment ago, the Texans are at the Jets on Thursday Night Football. Game gets underway at 7:15 p.m., and you can see it on Amazon. That is tonight's schedule, and that concludes today's rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And the Lakers are, 5 games into the season now, and congratulations to Bronny James, who finally scored his first NBA points last night in a loss at, of course, Cleveland. I mean, it was almost like they planned it that way.
Yeah. Hey, say what you want about Bronny James. The production hasn't maybe been there, but this guy's got a flair for the dramatic. I mean, think about this. He defies the odds and somehow gets on the court on opening night with national television bearing down on him magically. He gets on the court at the same exact time that his father also gets on the court. So he's already got flair for the dramatic there, and then he goes to his father's hometown to score his first points. I mean, if this is how the rest of his career is going to go, he's kind of setting the bar pretty high to get things started in terms of getting everybody's attention.
I don't know that this is the way his career is going to go. He got into the game in the fourth quarter. Dad wasn't on the floor with him this time. And according to this article on yahoosports.com, when the Lakers get back to LA, everybody else will be with the Los Angeles Lakers. Bronny will be with the South Bay Lakers. He is set to begin playing with the G League squad when they get back. So, but yeah, he scores inside the final 5 minutes or so. He was 1 of 2 from the floor. His other field goal attempt was a 3 that missed. But, like you said, he does have a flair for the dramatic, scoring his first NBA points where his dad played 11 seasons over 2 Cleveland Cavalier stays, right down the road from his hometown of Akron. So, first father-son duo to play in the NBA, obviously. And they played 3 minutes in that opener against the Timberwolves. I'm not sure that doesn't look like they played together at all last night because, again, I don't think he got in until late Wednesday. So
yeah, cool moment for Bronny. Obviously now it's up to him. Now, all jokes aside, now the real work really kind of begins. It's going to be up to him to kind of and obviously the mercy of the roster. I mean, if there's not a spot, there's not a spot, no matter how well you're playing. But if you're Bronny, this is your chance to kind of, go down to the G League, as it all but assuredly is what's going to happen. And then, kind of put in the work and try and grind your way through the first year of your professional career.
Yeah. And obviously, Bronny James aside, that work is going to be kind of an uphill battle. It didn't look like anybody else was going to draft him other than the Lakers. And clearly, the jury's still out as to whether or not Bronny James is an NBA player.
Yep. And, there was a lot of chatter, to your point that, if the Lakers didn't take him, nobody else likely would. Would he have even got a G League deal? Who knows? I mean, it'll be fascinating to see kind of how it plays out, in a perfect world. I mean, that's what's interesting, right? This storyline would be cool if it wasn't force-fed to us, but the fact that it's all but scripted, like I said, Bronny just defying the odds with these two crazy appearances thus far. And, if it wasn't spoon-fed to everybody, I think they would feel a little better about it. And so if he comes back, earns his way, as it will, into the rotation and the minutes, that will be cool to see. So we'll bear watching.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It will bear watching, and you make a great point. I think this would really be a great feel-good story if it were to just kind of come about organically. But the production of it really kind of takes away from it, really. It's like, okay, can we get this over with? Okay, he got his first points. Awesome. That's fantastic. Now, can we move on? And, for some of us, I imagine there are those that feel like we're being spoiled sports and that kind of thing. But the reality of it is he's not that great. So, yeah, let's kind of be done with this until he actually proves that he deserves the run that he's getting at this level.
For sure. I mean, like you said, last Tuesday was a glorified photo shoot for LeBron and his family. Now that they got that photo op out of the way, the next real hurdle was getting young Bronny, some points just to say he has scored in his NBA career. Now that that's out of the way, we'll see what happens. Hey, speaking of scoring, by the way, 22 minutes last night. Dalton Knecht is up to third in MVP odds. He had 18 off the pine for the Lakers. Even though they got blown out, the Cavs are undefeated. They're a really good team in the East. Decent effort there for the first round selection of the Los Angeles Lakers.
The first round selection. Who they finally got his number right. Knecht 4.
They got him loaded up on Knecht 4. And I mean, he only goes 2 of 7 from downtown last night, but still gets 18. Some of those minutes were obviously when the game was pretty lopsided. And that, everybody obviously is going to gravitate toward the Lakers side of this. But I'm here to tell you, Cleveland is going to be a force in the East. May not be able to overtake Boston, but they're going to be right in the thick of things. Look for them to finish in that top 2 or 3 by the time the Eastern Conference is finalized this year.
Okay. All right, Mr. NBA aficionado Winnie the Pooh. Hey, we're going to take a break here from the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company Studios, we will be joined by Green Hill football coach Josh Crouch. They got a big game tonight. We're going to talk about it. Stay tuned.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back into the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia on Halloween. Like that orange and black motif there, Mark. I'm digging that stuff. Hey, we are in the Lee Company studios of our respective homes here, Wade, Neely, and I. And we are joined now on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, by Green Hill Hawks football coach Josh Crouch. This program is in its 5th year of varsity play, and they're getting ready to play for a Region 4 6A championship tonight when crosstown rival Mount Pleasant visits the Hill. Coach Crouch, thanks for taking some time with us this afternoon.
Yeah, bringing in Mount Juliet tonight, and it should be a big crowd, big crowd, and big game.
Now, what are y'all doing for trick-or-treaters over there tonight? I mean, are y'all putting out some candy or anything? Or are you just asking them to just wear their costumes and come to the game, or what's up with that?
No, so we've got right behind the stadium, directly behind the home stands, there is a CTE parking lot of about 60 parking spaces. We'll have one truck or car in each one of those spaces, and we'll have trunk or treating going on right behind the football stadium for anybody that wants to come. All ages are welcome. We'll have various amount of groups working out here: baseball, softball, FCA, FFA. All of the clubs will be out giving out some candy. Our quarterback club will be out giving candy. That's going to start at 5:00, and then we're going to have shuttles going on at campus as well to bring people from parking over if they want to park a little bit farther away, and then get dropped off at the trick-or-treating spot.
Sounds like y'all have got everything taken care of, and I guess you've got a few tricks for Mount Juliet tonight, and hoping to get a treat at the end of the evening. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yes, that's fair. We're hoping to have it's 2 really good teams, in one city, so hoping to have a fun football game.
And I guess it's kind of interesting because the formation of Green Hill, initially, I guess all of those kids are gone at this point, but a lot of kids came from Mount Juliet, I guess, right?
Yeah, when we first opened, that was about where we split. Now, if they elected in the if they wanted to stay and they were currently already on the football program, they could stay. And we started working with eighth rising ninth graders as going to their zone school. But we're an open zone school district in Wilson County. So the majority of those kids that started at Mount Juliet had the opportunity to finish if they wanted to. And now that the split has happened, our first 4-year senior class graduated last year. So pretty much everybody else that is moved on is no longer a part of being enrolled in the actual school building at Mount Juliet High School.
Coach, I got to ask you, obviously the rivalry aspect is tremendous. The records are tremendous, but talk to me just real quick, man. How describe your effort last week to beat a really good Cookeville team just to get to this game, because the kids had to be already kind of looking ahead, but you had a really, really tough foe last week as well.
Yeah, we try to tell them, hosting the home playoff game was the most important thing for us at the beginning of the year. We haven't done that yet in 6A. Last year we finished third and went down to Riverdale. So our first goal was to host a home playoff game. And we knew that if we were in the conversation of hosting a home playoff game, we had the opportunity to win the region title as well. So we tried to hammer in beating Cookeville just because it's a region opponent. It was going to provide us the opportunity to host a home playoff game, and that is a really, really good football team that Cookeville has, and really strong quarterback, really good running game. So it was a good, really physical test for us going in. What we have now called the last 2 weeks was really playoffs for us, being able to non-region game. If it's a 3-way tie, region or non-region opponents come into play. The next week was Cookeville to host a game, and now this week it's win and be the region champ, and now we're talking about playoffs now the next week.
Yeah, a lot of teams have had to approach that. Some teams have the last 2 weeks been fighting, maybe just to stay alive or to get in the playoffs. But I mean, it's crazy how the season has unfolded these last 2 weeks in particular, that you guys, like you said, basically had a region semifinal last week in many regards. And now this boils down to the schedule makers. I don't know who they are. I might have an idea, but the schedule makers know what they're doing to build the drama, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's for some reason now this is 3 years in a row. It's been the last game of the year. So, maybe it stays that way. I'm not sure what the new regions will look like with the new districts being drawn up, but it's always something, our community, our city is looking forward to for week 11 to be able to host either at their place or at our place as a huge city event, and Mayor Cup and all the media stuff that goes along with it. We're hoping to continue that, that event for our community going forward.
Josh Crouch, Green Hill football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today. Coach, it's kind of amazing the level of success that you guys have had with your football program in this short period of time. I mean, again, 2020 was your first varsity season. Y'all went 11-2 and 21. Have been to the playoffs each of the last 4 years, I guess, headed that way now. But what do you attribute the early success of this program to?
I think anytime you have success, it's a lot of people that are not visible. Our administration, our athletic director, managers, people that are a part of our program that help on the administrative side has definitely been a place. Honestly, I have not worked at a place that is that collaborative across all men's sports and all sports in general. So I think it's a little bit of a tip of the hat to our athletic director, EJ Wood, allowing us to do some of the things we do. And, the second part of that is we've got to hire great coaches, and we have a good staff of men that have been here for a while and now are consistent in the ways that we do things. And anytime you keep a long period of tenure together with the same men, I think that leads to success. And then lastly, I think the kids in this area are very resilient. They will compete in if you put checkerboard in front of them, they're competing. So I think if you talk about a Green Hill football player, I think it's just the ultimate competitor, and being that coach, for them. You know, I'd try to provide that as well as being a really strong competitor in everything we do. So I don't think it's much to say of what I or we are doing. It's more of the community and really bought into football. This area really loves it. Youth League is strong. We started one of those in 21. We got 4 teams playing in the semifinals this weekend with the Youth League. We got a middle school that was 6-2. And now we've got the high school team that's starting to roll now and starting to get off the ground and get rolling. So it's a really strong area for football and one that I'm really fortunate to be a part of.
Yeah, you talk about those kids. Tell us who some of those kids are who have been so key for you this time around. I think I remember one because I saw you guys last season over at Summit, and I think this kid was an underclassman at the time. But Cannon Burrows is the big wideout for you. Is that
No,
right? Is he still with you?
Yeah, Cannon is our quarterback.
Cannon, quarterback. Okay, who is the big wideout? I think number 17 maybe is its number.
17 was here 2 years ago. That was Caleb Carver. He graduated in 22, but he went on to Indy. He's now starting to Indy. But the wide receiver that you've seen was number 1, Aaron Mattingly.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's back, but he pulled his hamstring in week 3, and he's been practicing with us for the last 3 weeks. But I'm trying to be really hesitant with him because he is fortunate enough to have opportunities in college to play football, but he'll never play basketball again organizationally at a team level. So I'm trying to make sure that we get him to basketball season so he can really enjoy that his senior year and not rush him back into a injury that may be long and prolong his senior year of high school.
Big rangy kid. I mean I'm sure that's taken and had an impact on your offense. Not greatly because you're 9-0, but I mean, how have you managed to continue to be successfully, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, without him, being sidelined?
And Aaron was, his 950 something yards receiving last year. I think he had 17 touchdowns. So that was a large part of our offense that was coming back that was gone. Not only did we lose him, we lost Luke Parton at the beginning of the year, who was our starting tight end. And losing those 2 guys at the beginning of the year, we had to readjust some things. But our offensive staff and Coach White, as our offense coordinator, is as good as they come. He is very fluid. He's knowledgeable in a lot of different schemes. So whereas last year Cannon wasn't much of a running threat as a sophomore, this year he's piled up, I think, 970 yards rushing. He's thrown for, I think, right at 1,800. With 23 total touchdowns as a quarterback. And I think that has been the change from us last year to this year, is we're able to divvy it out a little bit more and have a quarterback run game. And then Nick Owens Jr. has kind of been our Debo Samuels. He's played running back. He's played receiver. He's played slot receiver. He's played punt returner. He's our holder. He does everything for us. So he's been one that's had a really good year and kind of our X factor on offense.
Looking at these points that you put up again, you're not missing Mattingly a great deal. 41, 44, 52, 43, again, 28 last week against Cookville. Being able to spread the ball around, I guess, is kind of a key in that type of success.
Yeah, no doubt. And receivers have stepped up with Aaron being gone. It's Dylan Hawks and Dylan Shirley have stepped up big. Nick Moore had his first touchdown last week as a receiver. He stepped into that tight end role for Nick, and it's really been just next man up. If your number's called, we had a sophomore now at running back. His name's Zach Cartwright, and he's been really good as the middle of the season came along. He started to develop a little bit more in our offense, and we've just tried to, something's going to happen in high school football. We just try to keep coaching our kids, and next guy up, and Zach and them have done a really good job of calling the offensive scheme, and we've been fortunate to put up some points, but tonight's going to probably be our biggest test. Cookville was really, really good on defense, and tonight's going to be one of our biggest tests, I think. When we look at our season, look back at it, as if we can score on them, we feel pretty confident going into the postseason.
Coach, I was going to ask you about that too, because we've talked a little bit about your balance on offense. But you guys had over 300 rushing yards last week, as you just mentioned, versus a really good Cookeville defense. And you even told reporters after the game, that you played well in all three phases. I guess having said all that, what is something that you'd like to maybe see a little more out of tonight, or what will be maybe an X factor in your mind tonight?
Well, when you look at Mount Juliet, they've got a FBS type quarterback. So the secondary's got to be on their P's and Q's all night. Can't get kind of lazy in the back end. They've got another FCS type running back that's back there. So we've got to tackle the football really well, play good complementary defense tonight, and run into the ball. But the things I would like to see improve is our special teams. Our kicking game has been pretty strong throughout the year, and it's something that we put a big emphasis on is our special teams. But we've got to be the year that Mount Juliet beat us, we gave up a kick return for a touchdown and a blocked field goal for a touchdown. So those are the things that you can't have in these type games and win. And so we've got to make sure that the third phase is beneficial for both the offense and the defense.
Coach, 5 shutouts. Only one team has scored more than 14 points against you. I mean, if it becomes a defensive ball game, you kind of got to like your chances with that as well.
Yeah, I feel strong in our defense. We got a lot of young guys that are playing pretty confident in their position. So we think we've got a pretty good one now. I don't think we've seen an offense like this yet that can throw the ball as well as they can. But we've seen Gallatin, but Gallatin we played in the monsoon game, the hurricane week, so it kind of prevented them from throwing the football. But I think with this quarterback and 5 and 13 for them at receivers, they give us a different challenge than what Cookeville did. Cookeville is very run heavy, and they're going to pound it and get 3-4 yards at a time, and you got to be consistent. This team can make a touchdown on deep ball or play action pass if you're not sound in your defensive front.
Josh Crouch, Green Hill football coach, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. He's with us on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man, and good luck to y'all tonight and obviously beyond. I mean, tell me this before you leave, though. What in such a short period of time would a 10-0 record in, the 5th year mean to this program?
I mean, in general, I think there's been 5 football teams in the history of Wilson County public schools that have had a 10-0 season. So if you look at the scope of where all of Wilson County football has been at, to be one of those 10 teams or 5 teams that have a 10-0 record in our 5th year of existence, I think is something that our kids and our program can talk about for a long time. So, we're trying to steadily build tradition, and I think this step goes towards that that step of putting our program to where hopefully we're getting there to where we're a respected program across the state, and one that that is going to do things right, and the kids are going to play hard.
I know that you and Jamal Stewart are close.
Yeah, that's my buddy. That's my guy.
Have y'all been chatting much? He's run into a tough second half of the schedule down at Centennial. Has he cried on your shoulder a little bit?
He ain't got to cry on mine. I call him for more advice than he calls me for. I promise you that. He's had some injuries that's kind of prevented him from some things, but no, I'll call him. I actually texted him a little bit today, just telling him good luck tonight. So good dude and good friend of mine.
Great. Well, hey, continued success for both of y'all. We appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, and we'll catch up with you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all letting us have
Coach.
All right. Hey, before we get out of this segment, we've got some awards that we need to present. Our Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week, snapping a 3-game skid last week with their 35-6 win over at Hickman County on Friday night, is the Mount Pleasant Tigers. Again, Mount Pleasant improving to 6-3 on the year and keeping themselves in the mix for potentially a home game to open the Class 2A state playoffs with that win over at Hickman County. They travel down to Loretto tonight. Again, we'll have coverage of that at mainstreetmurray.com before the end of the night. But The Tigers, our custom stone handlers in to win life team of the week. Besides the military, there is no better team building effort than sports. Custom stone handlers invites you to get in the game. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week, Columbia Academy senior quarterback Stephen Neves, who completed all 11 of his passes for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns, also ran for a score as the Bulldogs defeated Mount Juliet Christian. There we go. They defeated Mount Juliet Christian 42-7 last week, coming off of an open date. So big night for Mr. Neves. They'll need another one from him tomorrow night as they travel to Grace Christian to close out the regular season. But Columbia Academy senior quarterback Stephen Neves, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to him. And again, to the Mount Pleasant Tigers as well. Let's take a break here from the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little World Series. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Things got a little spooky for the New York Yankees last night, particularly in the fifth inning, when their leather turned to iron, I guess. I don't know. They had 3 errors in a 5-run fifth inning, spoiled a 5-run lead, and eventually fell to the Dodgers 7-6 last night as the Dodgers completed the gentleman's sweep, as Wade likes to say, of the World Series, winning their 8th and they're second in 5 years. 3 errors in 1 inning. That'll get you beat.
That'll get you beat every time, and painstaking for the Yankees, who were so close to sending it to that Game 6. And I was watching this game last night. We went to get in the spooky mood. We went to go see the 76 version of Carrie at the Belcourt last night. We're at the restaurant right beside. We're watching the game, and the Yankees are absolutely rolling. They're up 5-0. We pay our bill, and I checked my phone one last time before we go in the theater, and it's 5-5. And I'm saying, what on earth happened? And what happened is what you just described. Judge, a little miscommunication, if you will, in the infield, and just some flat-out nerves got the best of the Yankees. And really kind of a summation of the whole series. They weren't prepared really at any stretch in this series to give the Dodgers a run for their money, and it all came kind of crashing down in that 5th.
Yeah, and it was tough, man. I mean, that was Aaron Judge's first error of the year when he just misplayed that fly ball there that kind of opened the floodgates. Volpe just had bad footwork on that ground ball into the hole and tried to make the play at third and just didn't make a very good throw. I think if he stops and sets his feet, he's got a shot, because Jazz almost came up with the throw, wasn't quite able to do so because it was off the mark. And then, there are those that say that Anthony Rizzo should have just taken that ground ball and gone to the bag himself. I'm in the camp that anything hit to the right side, if you are a pitcher, if you are a major league pitcher, you need to be breaking to the bag. I think that's Garrett Cole's botch right there, but there are those that would argue with me, and I'm not going to argue, but that's just kind of my opinion. But yeah, that's kind of where the wheels fell off, man. And Freddie Freeman did not hit a home run last night, but he drove in a couple right there to kind of cap that rally, and everything from that point was rolling in the Dodgers' direction once again.
Yeah, and the Yankees, they get the run back and they get it, momentum back on their side briefly in the 6th, only for things to come. Man, I mean, talk about torture. Just when you think you've kind of maybe got things back where you need to give up 2 runs in the tie game in the 8th, when you feel like maybe you just clawed back in it once and for all, that's got to be especially tough. And, especially for a franchise that needs, something to go their way. I mean, just a very, sympathetic, downtrodden franchise for all these years, the Yankees. They couldn't catch the break that they needed right there at the end. So you got the old evil empire, and now with 2 titles in the last 5 years, you got the new evil empire.
The new evil empire, exactly.
The Dodgers said, hey, you kind of maybe showed us how it was done. Now let us show you how it's really done.
Yeah, and there's some projections. I mean, they are already favored to win it in 25. So I mean, the evil empire may not be that far off, to be honest. Again, Freddie Freeman did not hit a home run. His streak of World Series games with a home run stops at 6, but the folks that made this decision, I guess, took pity on him and named him MVP anyway.
Yeah. What did I see last night? 35-1. 2 crazy stats in regards to betting I heard about Freeman on Scott Van Pelt last night. 35-1 on MVP, but also if you had bet $100 in game 1 for him to hit a home run and rolled it through the first 5 games, the number was astronomical. Like it was 300,000. I mean, it was just around $500,000 if you had taken the winnings each night and rolled it over. So if you did that and went for one last gamble last night, yeah, you came up empty and you're out $100 today. But you cannot take the MVP away from Freeman. Again, from the opening night, it was kind of it was his to lose. Mm-hmm. And not only did he not lose it, he expanded that case. And one of the wilder, more dominant MVP performances we've seen in a World Series in a while.
Yeah, he opened with the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, finished with 4
Yeah.
home runs, 12 ribs. So, I mean, congrats to him. But Matt Olson is still great. And as a Braves fan, we'll take him. Freeman went 6 for 20 with a triple, 4 home runs, 12 ribs, and 1 strikeout. Despite that ankle that, forced him to actually sit a game in the NLCS. So, kudos to him. Because, I mean, playing hurt is not out of his character. And it has been to teams' detriments in the past that he did so. But apparently it wasn't in the Fall Classic. So again, congratulations to Freddie Freeman, your World Series MVP. Congratulations also to John Overton High School graduate Mookie Betts, who now has 3 World Series championships.
Man, just continuing to stack rings, continuing to play well. And man, it's hard not to. I know no one wants to think about it. And, we're sitting here, we're a full year away from really having this conversation next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's going to be hard, especially when we get into another story. We got, they could potentially get even better in terms of their lineup next year. And after all the years of kind of wandering in the postseason, well, not wandering at all in the postseason and kind of being off the radar, Ohtani just promptly shows up and immediately wins a World Series. And goes 50-50 for the Dodgers. I mean, like I said, they are the evil empire, and it's theirs to enjoy all offseason.
He was kind of along for the ride here in the World Series.
That's the crazy thing, right? I mean, you got one of the greatest, if not the best player in the game, and he's just kind of somewhat of a small afterthought because that's how good everybody else was playing on the team at times.
It's going to look really odd as people look back at the box score from Game 5 of the 2024 World Series when you look down there and you see save Buehler. Walker Buehler of the Dodgers gets the last 3 outs in order to get the save in the 1-run win for the Dodgers. The former Vandy boy, again, he's been a starter. I don't know when the last time was that he's thrown in relief, let alone in a closer situation, if ever. But got it done there and kind of left no doubt. So, yeah.
Yeah, shut the door. It was a great effort by the Dodgers. And, the Yankees gave us just a taste. You wish, that they had maybe gotten in this series a little earlier and really kind of given us our money's worth, because at the end, we're talking about a 4-1. We're talking about a gentleman's sweep. And yeah, the game last night was full of some theatrics, but by and large, a pretty lopsided effort in this Fall Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers just really got it tilted their way with Game 1. Again, with the walk-off grand slam, it just felt like all of the momentum at that point was kind of in their corner, and they never really did a whole lot to give it up.
Absolutely. And, you go back just a couple of weeks, the Dodgers were a loss away in the NLDS to the Padres from getting eliminated. They forced the Game 5, then they rout the Padres, got that crazy pitching run that they continued all the way into the NLCS versus the Mets, and really kind of clubbed them into submission. So they toppled both New York teams in pretty convincing fashion to take this title.
Yeah. Through 8 pitchers, Buehler was the 8th pitcher to see the mound for the Dodgers last night, starting with Jack Flaherty, who lasted only an inning and really got banged around a little bit early on as the Mets were building that 5-0 lead. But the 8 pitchers that the Dodgers threw set a record for the most pitchers to win a series clinching game. So, I mean, typically you don't see the parade to the mound like that in a winning effort, particularly in a series winning effort. So,
an impromptu bullpen game last night.
Yeah. I think it came about a little quicker than Dave Roberts expected. Again, Jack Flaherty getting knocked around early on didn't help that situation at all. I looked up in the second inning and I'm like, Already? You hooked him already? Good Lord. But hey, he knew what he was doing. And I guess, I mean, it was 5-0 before the Dodgers got it going. If you don't hook him there and the Yankees pick up another 1 or 2 while you're waiting, maybe it gets out of reach. So again, you got to know when to get them out. I've always thought that that's one of the toughest decisions in all of sports, is when to get a pitcher or when to leave one, because I mean, it can only go bad. Rarely do they say, hey, great pull. You know, Daniel Hudson did not pitch in last night's game, but the win was enough for him to announce soon after the game was over that he's done. 15-year veteran announced his retirement. Warmed up last night, did not pitch. He was also involved in the Washington Nationals 2019 World Series run against the Houston Astros. Finishes his career with a 3.74 ERA and a nearly 3-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Former Silver Slugger Award winner, pitched with the White Sox, D-backs, Pirates, Blue Jays, Rays, and Padres, in addition to the Nats and the Dodgers. So happy trails to Daniel Hudson, who has apparently shut it down.
Hey, other one real quick, though, and there's a little Braves mixed in here, so you'll appreciate this. This is also the 5th straight. This is a wild stat. This is the 5th straight World Series that Will Smith has won. You got the catcher who won it with the Dodgers. Then you got the pitcher that won it with the Braves, the Astros, and the Rangers. And then the catcher comes back and wins it again last night. So whether it's pitching or catching, I guess, if your name is Will Smith and you're on a roster, your team's got a little hope, it sounds like.
It's Will Smith, but it's not the Fresh Prince. Absolutely. The pitcher, Will Smith, was the first guy to win 3 straight with 3 different teams.
Wild.
Very, very. The Dodgers announced that they will have their championship parade tomorrow in LA, and it's kind of fitting because the late Fernando Valenzuela's birthday is on November 1st. He would have been 64 tomorrow. So I don't know if that weighed into the decision or if that was strictly coincidental, but it's a nice little coincidence if it is. And if it was intentional, then good on them for doing so.
Yeah, emotions will be all over the place, right? Both highs and lows as they pay kind of one last bit of respect there, but also celebrate the championship. And, obviously everybody would have loved for him to have been there. But if he couldn't and isn't able to, this is a really cool turn of fate, if you will.
Absolutely. Hopefully the family will be involved in the parade in some
yeah.
kind of way. That'd be really cool. Obviously, talk has already turned to 2025, and one of the questions of 2025 is, where will Juan Soto be? He is a free agent as of now, and he's had back-to-back years with at least 35 homers and 100 ribs, and it has felt like to me that he's just kind of built for New York once he got there. And I don't think the Yankees will spare any expense in trying to keep him there. But he says, I don't know what teams want to come after me, but I'll definitely be open to listen to every single team. I don't have any doors closed or anything like that. So we're going to be available for all 30 teams. So,
talk about a great situation. You're on the biggest stage. Everybody's watching what you have to say, thinking about the game, obviously. But then at that point, you get to announce, hey, whoever's going to pay me the most or whoever's the best fit, come on down. The Dodgers already got a massive payroll. Why not add even more? The Yankees, certainly. He could also go right across town, not even have to leave New York. There's another team with a massive payroll over there that needs some help. So someone is going to pay a pretty penny for his services. And he has been worthy of that big contract. But man, talk about a advantageous situation. And did you see too, he was the very last one. I don't know what to make of this necessarily, but he was the very last one in the Yankees dugout watching as the Dodgers are celebrating on that field last night. And, part of me wonders, is he soaking it in saying, one last memory here at Yankee Stadium? Or is he maybe looking and saying, enjoy it tonight because I'm coming for you guys next year? I mean, I can see either way because he is about to be paid in a big, big way.
Well, is he saying I'm coming for you guys, or is he saying I'm coming with you guys next year?
Hey, move it. Save room for me in the dog pile next year. We're just going to run it back. I'll be with you guys.
There we go. Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah.
Hey, non-World Series news, as the Atlanta Braves made a move today, sending outfielder Jorge Soler to the Angels in exchange for pitcher Griffin Canning, who has spent his entire career in the Angels organization, 5 seasons, 25-34 with a 4.78 ERA. He is a former American League Gold Glove winner, won it back in 2020. Second round draft pick of the Angels out of UCLA in 2017. So I guess he figures as a potential starter. But with AA pulling the strings, he could also figure into another trade. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens there. But, Soler kind of, with people coming back from injuries and with Marcell Ozuna coming off the couple of seasons that he's coming off of, there really wasn't a place on the roster for Soler. And that's it's kind of unfortunate. I like him. But, he's a little limited defensively, as we saw over the course of this season. And, when he hits balls, they stay hit. But he was kind of a little inconsistent offensively, as were a lot of guys for the Braves this year. So hopefully things work out for him in L.A. with Wash and EY. So we'll see how that goes. Hour number 1 of Throwback Thursday is in the books here at Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be throwing it back to a recent conversation with Dr. Alan Sills, Chief Medical Officer of the National Football League. So stay tuned for that after the break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Are pleased to be joined now by National Football League Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan SILLS. And at this point, I should probably explain, Alan, this is not Mississippi State. This is Main Street Sports Today. So wanted to straighten that out. How are we dealing with Jeff Lebby and the 1-6 Bulldogs right now?
Obviously, it's always a challenge when you've got a new coach on hand, but, season's not over, still some games to be played. So Bulldog fans will be ever faithful there.
I see you got your muted maroon and gray jacket on there, a little Mississippi State representation going on there. I can appreciate that. Hey, I don't know if you caught the tail end of our first segment, but we were talking about former Ensworth basketball standout James Wiseman tearing his Achilles a couple of nights ago. In your experience, what's the estimated return from something like that, particularly for a basketball player?
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately pretty variable. It depends on the nature of the tear, sort of where it is in the ligament, and also complete tear versus partial tear. So I don't know enough about that one to give you a projection. What I will say is this. I think in years past, a lot of people assume that when you had an Achilles tear that could be a career-ending injury, and we do not see that being the case anymore. We see a lot of those players in multiple sports that will come back and play very effectively. Obviously, there's some high-profile folks in the NFL in that bucket. So I think that is an injury that's changed, as many things have, with better surgery, better rehab, and so forth.
When I reached out to you not too long ago about coming on the show, Alan, you mentioned, well, I'm in London right now. Can it wait till I get back? Obviously, you are back, but how long were you over there, and how often do you make those trips to the international games like that?
Yeah, so I was actually overseas for about 3 weeks. And so that's a combination of staffing the games we have this year and looking ahead to next year. So I think folks are aware we had 5 international games this year, 1 in Brazil, 3 in London, and we've got 1 in Munich week after next, which I'll be going over for. But next season in 2025, we're going to be adding games in Madrid, possibly be in a different city in Germany, possibly 1 other city in Europe. And then we're reactivating Mexico City, where we haven't been for a few years. So we'll be going to a total of 8 international games next year. So on the health and safety side, we're always working about a year in advance for setting those things up. Playing an international game is a lot more complex than most folks think. You don't just sort of show up with a bag of footballs and start playing. There's all the arrangements that you got to set up in terms of stadium and local arrangements and practice sites. And obviously for us on the health and safety side, we want to make sure that we can take care of any and all injuries that could occur in a game.
I would imagine that would be the worst nightmare, to have something somewhat catastrophic go on at an international venue like that.
Well, of course, we don't ever want to see a catastrophic injury, but they're great hospitals and great doctors all over the world. And so our work is just matching up with them and then helping them understand some of the nuances of American football. So I'll tell you a quick anecdote of that. We'll often go to these stadiums, which are of course, usually soccer stadiums, and we'll talk to the stadium paramedics and we'll ask them about removing players from the field, and we'll ask them to show us their equipment. And of course, they've got a stretcher that's, about yay wide and about 6 feet long. And we start to talk about the size of our athletes. And of course, the jaws kind of drop like, wait a minute, you've got to deal with people of what size? And so, those are just things that people don't think about, if they're not familiar with American football. Plus, they're not used to dealing with the gear. So they don't know how to take off a helmet, a face mask, shoulder pads. So it's been a learning process all around. But obviously, we've got great partners. And Marty, it's our job. And what I'm looking at doing is I want us to have the same level of care available wherever we're playing as if we were in the U.S. And I think our teams would tell you that's what we get to. So don't worry about those catastrophic injuries getting great care. We just obviously don't want to see them happen.
Absolutely. And Alan, last year I got to go to London for the Titans game, and we saw Ryan Tannehill go down with that ankle injury there. But we also saw Jordan Love in Brazil, this year. Does there reach a point, is the best practice or common practice to get the athlete back to the United States as quickly as possible? Or, obviously in an emergency you'd operate there, but I'm curious, is there a threshold, or how does that process play out in terms of the care?
Yeah, it's really specific to what the injury is. So obviously, if an athlete can defer and get treated back in the States by their standard care team, they're going to do that. So for example, if someone tears an ACL, you're not going to do surgery that night in any case. And so you've got a chance there to stabilize and then transport the athlete back home. On the other hand, if somebody has a collapsed lung, they can't fly back home. You've got to take care of that in market. Or one thing we saw a couple seasons ago that you're familiar with the Vikings, if a player has a fracture where they've got an open fracture and the bone's sort of sticking out, that's something you've got to deal with in market. So we're always trying to think and plan for both of those. But again, we want to make sure if there is a catastrophic injury, brain, spine, arterial injury, that we can provide that excellent, highest standard of care there in that city, so that we don't have to worry about trying to transport an unstable patient.
Makes sense. And like Mo said a moment ago, that is, to me, seems like one of the nightmare situations. I'm just thinking if I suffered an injury internationally, healthcare jokes aside, in the United States here in terms of cost, that's a nightmare situation. But otherwise, it seems like you guys go to great lengths to specify and kind of see what's best for each athlete in each case, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, we really do. And the doctors we're working with in those markets are taking care of the most elite athletes. So, for example, next year in Madrid, when you talk about Real Madrid, you're talking about one of the biggest and most well-resourced sporting clubs in the entire world. Those physicians, they're accustomed to taking care of highly paid, highly skilled athletes. And so, we do have confidence in that. And then one of the things we do that people may not be aware of, if a team lands in this country, let's say on Wednesday before the game on Sunday, we'll embed local physicians with them from the minute they land. That'll stay with them all throughout. So they really get to know and have some degree of confidence in those physicians. And of course, the team brings their own physicians as well. So I think for players, again, they have confidence in what's set up. They know that we work really hard on this, and we've had great experience there so far.
Dr. Alan Sills, Chief Medical Officer of the National Football League, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Dr. Sills, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it feels like watching games this season, we have seen more Guardian caps on Sunday afternoons, on Thursday nights, that kind of thing, than we have in seasons past. One, is that correct? Two, if it is, what would you attribute it to?
Yeah, well, it absolutely is correct, because we've never seen them before this year. So it's
the
first time.
Well, there you go.
It's the first time we've seen them in game, really at any level above high school. There have been a couple of high schools in the country in the past 2 or 3 years that have used them in game, but there's never been an in-game usage, to our knowledge, in the college game or in a pro game until this year. And part of that comes out of the fact that we mandated them for use in practice for all players, other than kickers, punters, and quarterbacks who don't get hit in practice. So everybody had to wear it in practice anytime they put a helmet on, starting this year, 2024. Okay. The past 2 seasons, we've used them for some subsets of players. So I think, number one, Mo, you've got players getting used to it in practice and seeing how it sort of feels and what it's like to them. Number two, though, Guardian caps have been used in a college game for probably a decade. All of your major sort of Power 4 schools and a lot of other schools have been using them. And so players are sort of accustomed to using them, I think, when they come into the league. And so Again, some of them have elected to use them in game. And then the third thing is you're starting to see, I think, some players may be coming back from injury that are wearing them in those situations as well. So you don't always see it unless you know what to look for, because the players that wear them pull a little logo cap cover over the cap. So it looks sort of like a regular helmet unless you kind of take a closer look at it.
Okay. I know I think Josh Wiley, the tight end for the Titans, is among the guys that are wearing them.
Yes.
Again, a pretty good bit. What is the threshold for who has to wear one versus who doesn't?
Yeah, again, in games, it's totally voluntary. And the reason for that, we often get asked, well, why did you mandate it in practice, but you're not mandating it in games? And the reason is, again, what data we have. We just don't have any game data. We're trying to compile that. And of course, before you're going to make something mandatory, you want to make sure not only that it's efficacious, but there's not a downstream negative effect. So on the contrary, we've got about 10 years experience, as I said, in practice situations, plus in the NFL, we've been using it for 3 years. So that's why we expanded the mandate. And the real reason we expanded the mandate in practice is what the data told us. For 3 years now, we've seen a 50% reduction, 50% drop in concussions suffered in preseason practices from the players wearing the Guardian cap compared to what they historically had in the 3 previous seasons prior to using it. And that's a magnitude of an effect that's been pretty hard to ignore. We've seen it ourselves 3 straight seasons. The Canadian Football League saw the same thing. So, we felt that data was a little too compelling to not act upon.
I thought I read somewhere that wearing one reduces your odds of getting a concussion by 10%. And if you're hit by someone wearing one, it reduces it by 20%. Do those numbers sound right?
It's the right number, but it's the wrong metric. It's not risk of concussion. It's how much force gets transmitted through the helmet. So we test these in the laboratory, put them on a helmet, test them, take them off, hit the helmet in the same way. And when the Guardian cap is on the helmet, the force that gets transmitted through the helmet to the brain is reduced on average 10 to 15% by just the one cap. If 2 players wearing them collide, then it becomes additive, and you're talking a 20 to 30% benefit. So it's force reduction, which obviously we think helps with concussion reduction, but we wouldn't say that it's quite, that linear relationship.
Okay. All right. And that's the difference in a layman such as myself and someone who is well skilled in this area such as yourself. So thanks for clarifying that and getting me straight. Dr. Alan Sills, Chief Medical Officer of the National Football League, again, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Alan, all of that said, and again, you all can't mandate it, or you're not mandating them for any threshold at this point. And I know you're not going to address specific situations, so I'm not going to ask you. But if you have someone who has had a history of concussion, say 3 over 2 years in the National Football League, just quarterback X, we'll say, why would you not wear one?
So that gets into another advance that we've seen in helmets. So to put it in short terms, helmet technology has gotten better and better and better over the last couple of years. Better designs, better materials. It's sort of like cars. We have much safer cars that we drive in 2024 than we did even 5 or 10 years ago, and certainly than 20 years ago. So as these helmets have gotten better, manufacturers have really learned, and they've tuned them to how people get injured. And so this year, in 2024, we actually saw 12 new helmet models introduced to the league. 12 is a really big number for 1 year. And 6 of those tested in the lab better than any helmet we've ever seen. They were the top of the best of the best. And those helmets, again, have been designed specifically based on what we've learned through the years of all these ways that people get injured. When we tested those in the lab, the protection they offered was just as good as a standard helmet with a Guardian cap on top of it. So meaning a regular helmet plus a Guardian cap would reduce force at the same or even a little bit less of a magnitude than these brand new top performing helmets. And so we made a big push to put players in those helmets. We actually allowed them to opt out of wearing a Guardian cap in practice. We said, if you're wearing one of these 6 helmets, you don't have to wear a Guardian cap because it's at least as good, if not better. We saw over 200 players that did that, Mo, and they've actually continued to wear them into the season. And we think that's a tremendous advance and a step forward. Because, again, at the end of the day, we want players in the best, safest helmet, just like you want to drive the safest car. So getting back to any individual player's choice, our encouragement to players is to be familiar with the data. They all are. They pay a lot of attention to it. But if you're choosing one of those 6 helmets, then you're choosing something that actually offers as much protection as a regular helmet plus a Guardian cap in terms of force reduction.
Dr. Sills, I wanted to ask you something I read or maybe heard earlier this week, especially regarding that quarterback. I think we all know we're talking about was the Guardian cap, especially. It seems, correct me if I'm wrong, with those subconcussive hits that kind of maybe don't register a noticeable concussion. How effective at that are those? Because that seems like at practice, especially like you're speaking, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of repetitions.
Yeah.
And those subconcussive hits, those to me are the ones that I would maybe be more concerned about because they're so sneaky and under the radar. So is that kind of correct in that methodology there or thought process?
Yeah, it is. And that's actually why we first introduced them. This is a little bit of a probably a misnomer that people don't understand, but we didn't actually introduce Guardian Cap to the NFL to reduce concussion. We really didn't. And you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. We did it for the reason that you just said, which is we wanted to reduce the force anytime a player's head was contacted. Now, let's be clear. The best way to eliminate risk is to not hit your head in the first place, right? So we continue to emphasize avoiding head contact wherever you can. But we all know that in any kind of sport, whether we're talking about football or lacrosse or soccer or hockey, there is inadvertent contact. Players accidentally hit each other. Players hit the ground. So head contact can occur. So the idea is, let's put that cap on so that if there is a head contact, if there is a helmet contact, we can reduce that force like we talked about a minute ago. We were really surprised, frankly, that the concussion rate went down as much as it did, because that's not what we were targeting. We were targeting just what you said, reducing force anytime the helmet was struck. But it was pretty hard to ignore that number, so we did it again the following year. 2022, first year we did it in practice for certain players. Brought it back in 2023, saw the same exact thing, a 50% drop in concussion. So I do still think the primary benefit of the caps is that play after play contact, and particularly in practice. But it's pretty hard to ignore that magnitude of concussion reduction in practice. And that's why this year, as I said, we mandated them anytime the helmet is worn for practice.
You also, real quick, you mentioned soccer. That's something I've noticed, years and years ago, especially goalkeepers. Is that a Guardian cap? Is that what that's considered that sometimes those guys would wear? And if so, how do they differ, I guess, from what the NFL is offering now?
Yeah, it is a different product because, again, soccer players tend to get hurt and get injured in different ways. So I wouldn't get into that. And we haven't tested those products. But the concept is the same, that anytime you have head contact, you can have a concussion. And obviously in soccer, a lot of the head contact is players going for the ball and hitting each other, or players hitting the ground with their head.
Dr. Alan Sills, Chief Medical Officer of the NFL, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Alan, besides concussions, what large-scale injuries are the biggest concern in the league, if there was one in particular?
Well, we actually look at just that question every year, Mo. So we look at what we call injury burden, which is not how many, but basically how much time do players miss. So if you ask the question that way and you say, what is the injury that causes players to miss more time in the NFL than any other injury? I think you guys would be surprised by the answer. You'd probably say concussion or ACL or something. It's actually lower extremity strains, hamstring strains. NFL players miss more time because of hamstring injuries than any other injury. And that's because they're pretty common. They may only miss 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks, but that's still a very big burden of time. And they have a pretty high recurrence rate. Up to 25% of them will reoccur in the same season. So we've got a big push and a big focus on that injury. The number 2 injury on that burden chart are ACLs. Obviously, they're not as many, but they miss a lot of time. And if you look at the top 10, actually, I believe it's 8 out of the 10 are below the waist. They're lower extremity injuries to either strains, the knee ligaments, the foot ankle complex. Concussion is on the list, but it's about 6th or 7th, and then shoulder injuries get in there too. But that's how we kind of orient our research and our efforts. And we do have active research and intervention efforts on all of those. Love to tell you about that sometime. But that's kind of how we look at it. It's not just how many injuries do we have, but what's really keeping players off the field, because that's ultimately what matters to everybody.
Right. And I don't guess there's anything comparable to a Guardian cap for hamstrings.
No, hamstring is all about load, and it's about training. It's about how you escalate and de-escalate load. and specifically tailoring preparation to certain positions. So we've done a lot of work on that in the preseason. We've actually had a lot of success. We've driven down the preseason hamstring injuries for 2 years in a row now, somewhere between 20 and 30%. We've seen that persist into the regular season. So we're proud of that work. There's a lot more to be done, but that is a very, very active issue that not as many people are talking about or maybe hear about, but it's really important to our teams and our players.
Dr. Sills, I'm also curious, we're talking elite, the most elite athletes on the planet. So recovery is more important than any other athletes, I suppose. But maybe to what lengths can you expand upon the concept of recovery and how these athletes, man, it just seems like they are doing such a great job now more than ever of trying to prevent as much as they can by actively recovering in a productive manner.
Yeah, everybody monitors load really carefully. So athletes might wear GPS tracking devices, not just in games, but in practice. So you know exactly how many yards, how many total yards, how many high-speed running efforts, how that's spaced out. And all that gets monitored on a daily basis. And we actually now have prediction tools that will tell you every day whether a player is, green, yellow, or red in terms of their risk for a soft tissue injury based on a bunch of metrics of how much load and how much activity. And so literally teams do look at that on a day-by-day basis, and they really try to adjust workload for players, whether, again, it's in practice or preseason. And that science is continuing to evolve at just an incredibly rapid rate. And by the way, it takes a whole village of people. That's not just coaches or strength coaches, but it's the athletic trainers, the physician, the sports scientists, the performance people, the equipment managers, the strength coach, the position coach. All of those people are meeting together and reviewing that data every day. And it's just a whole different world than it was even 10 years ago.
Other quick question in regards to that recovery piece is that something that's offered to every team and then it's up to each team as far as how they utilize it? Is it mandated? Because it seems like we can certainly see some franchises using it more than others, and perhaps maybe that's why they're kind of the best of the best. So I'm curious how that is disseminated.
Yeah, everybody monitors and uses it. Now, people interpret it different ways, but one of the things we've been able to do, again, that fans wouldn't know is all 32 clubs share all that data with us, with the league. We actually transmit it to a third-party company. We don't go in and look at it. So I don't go in and look at the Titans practice or the Steelers practice, but we send it to a bioengineering company and a data science company, and they take all that and they combine it together, because the reality is this: no one team has enough data to be able to take their injuries and marry it up against that performance data. But when we put all 32 teams together, now we can begin to understand it. So that's what we've done is we've taken the tracking data, the injury data, and video, and taken these consulting companies who put it all together, and then they bring back the observations to the entire league. Because I'm a big believer, Wade, that I don't think this is the secret sauce. You shouldn't have an advantage competitively just because you can keep your players healthier. We want to keep everybody healthy and then let that competitive advantage come from scheme and coaching and all the other things that happen. But we think that everybody deserves to get to the starting line with a healthy component of players.
Dr. Alan Sills, Chief Medical Officer of the National Football League, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Dr. Sills is a baseball guy at heart. Yankees, Dodgers, who you got?
Wow, you really put me on the spot here. I'm going to go Dodgers in 6.
Dodgers in 6. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Alan, we appreciate it, man, and look forward to getting you back on again sometime to talk about some of that other stuff.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate what you do and enjoy being with you, and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. You too. We'll talk to you.
Dr. Sills.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And I don't know about your home, Wade, but it's raining outside mine.
Oof. No rain yet, but probably coming, which means trick or treat might be quicker than usual this evening.
Yeah, I'm hoping it stays dry south, because I've got to go south for a football game later this evening. So maybe it's just up here. We'll see how that goes. Right now we are joined by Ben Arthur of Fox Sports. Talk a little Tennessee Titans and AFC South. Ben, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. How's it going?
What's up,
Going
Ben?
pretty well, man. Hey, appreciate you taking some time to visit with us. The Titans are hosting New England on Sunday, and the good news is that this could be a get-right game for the 1-6 Titans. The bad news is the 2-6 Patriots are probably looking at it the same way.
Yeah, this is on paper, this is one of the least entertaining matchups we've probably of the entire NFL season. So, I mean, it could be looked at from both sides, right? Like an opportunity for the Titans to get back on track after just getting blown off the brakes in Detroit, and then for the Patriots too. I mean, we all know how their season is gone. So, and Titans could have Will Levis back. So that could be a good sign as well. And maybe Tajay Spears back in the
Is it though?
What was that?
Is it though a good sign
with Levis?
Yeah.
well, I mean, I think we can agree, Mo, this season isn't really going anywhere for the Titans, right? And you need to know what you have in Will Levis. I mean, we might get to this, but the whole Anthony Richardson situation in Indy, like, I think that's a mistake. I mean, you take a guy high, and I know with the Titans case, I mean, Levis was a second-round pick, but I mean, young quarterback. He's still only started, 14 or 15 games at this point. You need to know. You need to give him the year. I'm still kind of on that Train, and we haven't really seen much of a difference in the Titans with Mason Rudolph on the field, and this season isn't really going anywhere, as I said. And so either Levis, if he comes back this week, he starts to string together some positives on the field, or he continues to struggle, and that makes the decision coming next spring all the more easier. So I'm definitely on board with playing Levis.
I was being a little facetious, but yes, you are absolutely right, and we are absolutely going to get to the Richardson situation here. But yeah, you're right, and I mean that was laid out basically from the onset of this season, that 2024 is all about finding out whether Will Levis is long-term the guy. I feel like there's probably enough of a sample size that the answer to that is no, but you are probably right. He probably does deserve the year to, maybe grow out of some things. I don't know. I don't hold out much hope for that, to be honest, but again, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, and that's totally fair, Mo. But I think just with the way this Titan season has gone, I think that makes the decision easier to just kind of see what happens, right? Like clearly, when the Titans were constructing this team in the offseason, they thought they would contend, right? That's why you pay all that money for Lloyd Cushenberry, Calvin Ridley, Tyler. Well, you got Tyler Boyd, but who is it? Well, L'Jarius Sneed. You trade for Sneed.
Trading for Ernest Jones.
Yep, that too. You signed Tony Pollard. All these moves, right? This is not a team that in the offseason was thinking, oh, we're just going to tank. They were going to try and win, but clearly that's not happening. And so I think that makes the decision even easier to just let it rock with Will Levis for the rest of 2024.
My question, Ben, is at what point do the wins become maybe what you don't want? I know you may not hear the franchise publicly say that, but at some point, if you're going to be that bad, or if the record is that bad, as a Jets fan, I know all about tanking incorrectly as well. So at what point do you maybe say, okay, the rest of the year is just literally about talent evaluation, and then also keep games competitive, but maybe you're not upset if you lose those games also?
Yeah, that's a conversation we're going to have more here for the Titans as we get into November and into December eventually. And I think it kind of goes back to Levis too, right? Like if he starts to I don't know that this will happen, but if he starts to start stacking some good games, maybe you because you want to obviously be high in the draft regardless, but if he plays up to the point to where now you don't even know that you want to draft a quarterback, then that changes the calculus, right? Like if you start stringing together 3-4 wins in a row when Levis looks like a guy, then all of a sudden, okay, maybe we just address right tackle or something like that, as opposed to looking at a Shedeur Sanders or whoever the quarterbacks are going to be at the top of the draft. So it really depends on how, first of all, once Levis gets healthy, but also like what he looks like, because I think that's going to be a big determinant in kind of how Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon start to evaluate that calculus for sure.
I'm fascinated to see how that situation plays out. I guess, Ben, if we're kind of scrapping for positives, even in the last couple of weeks, there haven't been a ton, but who's maybe a player or two that even at this point in the season, maybe other than Sweat, who I think everybody feels pretty confident about, but who are some other players that maybe have kind of emerged that, we're going to keep this guy for next year. Let's see how we can develop him, at least in your mind.
Well, first of all, I think seeing Calvin Ridley erupt like that in
that was nice.
Quarter, yeah, that was nice. So, and you're going to have him, right? You just gave him $50 million fully guaranteed, essentially. So he's going to have to be here, and to see him kind of get in that rhythm, that's a positive for one of the veterans. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is a guy I've liked a lot, especially with Cheeto Awuzie being down and L'Jarius Sneed being out. I mean, he's a guy who I think has shown some good things. Tony Pollard has really been consistent the whole year, right? Like he's looked really good. And honestly, the Titans offensive line has been playing better. The right tackle spot is still a circus, but from left tackle to right guard, it's actually been probably a lot better than fans want to admit or to talk about. I saw the Titans just put out how since week 4, they've actually allowed I think it's the fewest sacks in the league. So, I mean, that's a positive, right? So I think, from a whole team perspective, that stands out from players. I mentioned really Tony Pollard, but yeah, in terms of the young guys, Sweat, of course, as you said, Awuzie, those 2 guys, and Latham continues to. I think he's been playing, continuing to get better each and every week. So.
Ben Arthur of Fox Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, we saw DeAndre Hopkins get traded to Kansas City. We saw Ernest Jones get traded to Seattle. Trade deadline is what, Tuesday? Is that right?
It is on the election day, so that's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Do you feel like the Titans are done moving people? And if not, who else might be a candidate, would you think?
I don't think they're going to stop taking calls. I don't know that we will see another move. I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw a team move 3 players ahead of one trade deadline. I mean, the Titans, with the way this year has gone, and they need draft picks, right? And I know Rand Carthon told that to the Tennessean, that they entered the year with 5 picks. I think now they're at 7 or 8. And this is a team that's going to need to reset, right? Get as many picks as possible. You still have valuable players on this team. So I wouldn't rule it out. Like I said, they're going to continue to take calls, maybe initiate calls. In terms of guys who could be available, I don't see – I know Jeffrey Simmons is floated out there. I mean, I think that's kind of tapered down a bit. I don't think that happens. I mean – maybe a Quandre Diggs type, Amani Hooker, maybe guys like that. I don't know. More so on the defensive side of the ball, I think. I think that's where most of their value is. But yeah, those are 2 guys off the top of my head who might make sense to move.
Okay. You mentioned the situation in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco, and it kind of feels like the Colts don't know if they're fish or fowl at this point. I mean, that 4-4 record that they have at this point may be impacting their decision making a little bit, as opposed to being 1-6 and it being pretty cut and dried. I mean, maybe from that standpoint, maybe the Titans are actually in a better situation than the Colts in terms of, we can actually go all in on finding out if our young quarterback is the guy. They are still feeling like they are in playoff contention and they need to win ball games, and Richardson isn't helping them do that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, as you kind of painted there, I mean, the Titans quarterback situation and the Colts quarterback situation, it's completely different because of where these teams stack up in terms of playoff prospects. But why this doesn't make sense to me for the Colts is because, like, they're not winning the Super Bowl, right? Like, how far are you really going to get with Joe Flacco? Maybe you sneak into the playoffs, right? But will you actually, like, I think that they're putting a little too much on being able to win now, because I just don't think it's very realistic for them to even go on a deep playoff run, let alone get to the Super Bowl. So with that being the case, why not just ride it out with the guy who has only started 10 games, who you were preaching to the public, to Colts fans, that Richardson is going to need reps and that you guys are going to need patience with him, and then to totally go back on that, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, look, Richardson hasn't been good. The completion rate, I mean, people have talked about how historically bad that is, but it's not like the Colts have done much to help him. His receivers have missed a lot of opportunities for him. The O-line hasn't exactly been great for him in pass protection. He's had to he's been great at eluding, of kind of avoiding sacks, but they haven't exactly done a great job of preventing guys from getting in his face. And so with all that being said, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, this is kind of a decision that keeps you in mediocrity, so to speak, right? Like, what happens if they don't get to the playoffs, or even if they get bounced in the first round, and then you're looking in January and February and you still don't know anything about Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, has had his development and game reps pushed back at every single phase of his career, dating back to his junior or senior year of high school. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm curious about this whole situation. Ben, is this, everything you just said makes sense, but I guess my question amidst all this story is this kind of almost an unofficial suspension or one game? I mean, if things go horribly with Flacco on Sunday, are they going to turn right back around? If they, is that a deal where you don't want to lose the locker room? I'm just kind of curious. It feels like there's more at play. And to me, at least, it doesn't seem like an out and out handing the keys over to Flacco. It feels like there's still some wiggle room there in my mind.
Yeah, there is going to still be some wiggle room, right? And with them being in the thick of the playoff hunt, I mean, yeah, that's still going to be the case. I mean, this could very well be just a 2-week thing, and Anthony Richardson ends up being back out there. You mentioned the locker room piece, and it's interesting because it doesn't sound like that they were at risk of losing the locker room if they kept Anthony Richardson out there. You look at a lot of what's being said coming out of Indy with the guys in the locker room, very much still believe in Anthony, and they were surprised, like, a lot of them, like us, finding out on social media that this was happening. And so, yeah, it's going to be a fluid situation. I don't think the Colts are giving up on him necessarily because of that reason. Mm-hmm. Like, they could very well go back to him. But at the same time, we haven't seen very many cases, maybe in NFL history, where an early round, highly touted quarterback started his career as the starter, was benched, and then came back with that same team and had success as QB1. Like, I did a lot of research on that after the news came out, and the only example I could find was Alex Smith in 2005 with the the 49ers, and even he was eventually traded to the Chiefs. So there just isn't much of a precedent for this. So yeah, you could say they're not really giving up on him, but then it's like there aren't very many situations where this works out well.
Yeah, seems odd.
Ben, how much of this move on the Indianapolis part goes back to Richardson kind of pulling himself out of that ball game this past weekend, saying that he was tired after a long scramble?
Yeah, everything that Colts have said publicly is that it didn't play a role. But I don't know.
Do we believe that?
Yeah, personally, I don't believe it, and like that's kind of like almost a cardinal sin, right? Especially being a quarterback, right? To tap out. And we've seen a whole bunch of former players, right, come out and say this is unheard of. Like I've never seen someone do this before. And I think that there's a component of that to this. You know, from a PR standpoint, the Colts are never going to say that publicly. But yeah, that could very much be at play.
Okay. All right. Real quick before we go, there are 9 teams in the National Football League that have lost at least 6 games as we head into week 9. It feels like a lot, and I didn't do a lot of research, but I did go back and look at last year's standings after 8 weeks, and there were 5 teams that had lost 6 games or more. You know, is there anything in particular that we attribute that to? I mean, is it scheduling? Is it, or is it just a lot of bad teams, or what? Is there anything to this at all?
It's hard to say. I think where I go to is the fact that this year we're starting to see the NFL's cyclical nature again, right? Like the last few years we had seen kind of the explosion of the passing attacks, right? But this year we're starting to see defenses adjust to that and teams maybe looking like they're having to grind out wins more, the product not looking as clean. And so I think maybe that is playing a role in kind of how, you know, how most teams seem to be in a similar spot, right? Like it's almost like we're not seeing, because I think with those, you know, what we had seen the last few years is, you know, because, you know, if you had a special quarterback, like that's automatically going to put you in this tier. And if you didn't, you're going to be over here. But because of the way defenses have adjusted, it's like a lot of those even special quarterbacks have been neutralized in many ways. And I feel like that's brought the parity, whatever word you want to use, brought it closer to the middle. And so I think what we're seeing is a manifestation of that.
Great. Sounds good. Ben Arthur of Fox Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. You can find him on Twitter at Ben Y. Arthur, one word. Ben, we appreciate it. Where are you going to be this weekend?
Nowhere. I will be monitoring multiple games from home this week. So
enjoy that.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Sounds good, Ben. We appreciate it. We'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
All right. Hey, when we come back to the Lee Company studio for the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, Wade and I will jump into the grab bag and see what we can pull out, or the Halloween pumpkin, maybe, as the case may be. So stay tuned.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
It's the final segment of Main Street Sports Today, the Throwback Thursday edition. And it's Halloween. And, you know, we need to get into the grab bag, and we need to start probably by acknowledging the passing last night of former Middle Tennessee State women's basketball coach Louis Bivens. Coach Bivens spent, I think, 11 seasons at MTSU, went 183 and 102, won 4 conference championships and a couple of NCAA tournament berths under his leadership, between Jim Davis and Stephanie Smith with the Lady Raiders. Again, Louis Bivens passed away yesterday at the age of 79, and I'm sure we'll get into that more Tuesday when we visit with Chip Walters, but certainly wanted to acknowledge that, and as a couple of MTSU graduates, send our condolences to the Blue Raider community and his family on his loss. That's a he had some physical difficulties during his coaching career, actually, and battled through that, and again had a lot of success over at MTSU, but passed away yesterday at 79. Thursday night football tonight. Again, the 6-2 Texans travel north, taking on the 2-6 Jets, one of those 9 teams with 6+ losses in the NFL, and doesn't really promise to get a whole lot better for the Jets tonight.
I didn't get a chance to ask Ben this, but there's the question to be asked, especially considering the talk we just had about the Colts. What if the Colts would have won that game by 3 points instead of losing by 3 to the Texans last weekend? And his article says, are the Texans, should we worry about them? They have not looked as dominant or as great as you may have suspected, considering how great of a year they had last year and how they kind of went all in. That being said, they are better than the Jets, at least right now, for sure. And in regards to tonight's game, they are way more healthier. Tonight will be some zombies on the sideline because there is a ton of people out, especially for New York. Not as much for the Texans, but they obviously had that big loss earlier in the week when we talked about Diggs going out. It'll be an ugly game, per usual. Roll up the sleeves for a Thursday night football grind fest, and whoever wins will get a little bit of momentum. But I don't expect much. I don't expect much in terms of offense in tonight's game. I think it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, you mentioned, Stephon Diggs. We talked a little bit about him being out yesterday. Nico Collins was already out. He may or may not be back at some point. He's got a hamstring. Obviously, Diggs with an ACL is done for the year. So, to your question, maybe the Texans are worth being concerned with. Now, they're still the best team in the AFC South.
They are, and that is what the Colts got to be wondering is, man, if we had got that game last week, though, crazy to think about, but they're not leading the division, but they're right there in the driver's seat, especially with one game up on those guys. And even the Jaguars several weeks ago had the Texans beat deep into the fourth quarter before they kicked a field goal to win it. So at 6-2, it's interesting tonight's matchup. We got a 2-6 team that in many regards feels like or plays like at times they're 6-2. And then we got a 6-2 team in the Texans that at times, depending on at what point in the game you pop in, they look like the 2-6 team. So who knows what will really happen tonight? But yes, at this point, a couple game cushion in the AFC South, especially with that big win last weekend.
Man, receivers have seemed to be at a premium. We were just talking about Diggs and Collins for the Texans. We saw DeAndre Hopkins get traded. We've seen a lot of receivers move. Another one just moved here in the last couple of days as the Carolina Panthers sent Deontay Johnson to Baltimore. So, I mean, if you're a receiver, I hope you're renting and not buying these days. Everybody seems to need one.
Yeah, and, tough break for Bryce Young. He's like, all right, I finally get my shot and get to start again. He's like, wait a second, you trading my guy away, man.
Bryce Young aside, I think Johnson's going to be in a better situation. When
And
you
Bryce
get
Young still got Xavier Legette though, to at least, if nothing else, he's got that voice, so you can he provides a little calming presence there, maybe for Bryce to cool down. But yeah, Baltimore getting a little richer these days, kind of like we spoke with Heather yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when you look around, you've got Flowers likely, and now Johnson on the outside. You've got Mark Henry, who's always there at tight end, and obviously Lamar can look over his shoulder and see Double Deuce back there. I mean, goodness gracious, is that an embarrassment of riches? That's the biggest. I mean, skill position wise, Baltimore may at this point be ahead of Kansas City.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. The interesting thing I was getting ready to say, Zay Flowers has by far been their most explosive threat. But, to the vast majority of folks, he's still not a household name in terms of a playmaking wide receiver. So they are kind of like the Chiefs, to your point there. I mean, they're kind of making do with some guys that, they're not the superstar prime wideouts, but they are kind of quietly getting it done. And then, anytime you get in trouble, obviously being able to turn around and hand it off to Henry. Justice Hill also has been a great spellback for Henry too. Perfect little 1-2 combo.
Derek Carr looks like he's set to come back this weekend. Speaking of the Panthers, New Orleans takes on the Panthers this weekend. Carr's been out for the last 3 weeks with that oblique situation. Spencer Rattler started a couple of games for the Saints, but the Saints are, speaking of bad, the Saints are that as well.
Yeah, I mean, how about that? What if I told you after 2 weeks the Saints would be 2-0 and the Ravens would be 0-2, and then knowing what we know now, you're like, wait a second, what universe was I living? Back then felt like Halloween. They are a 2-6 team that the weird thing is they were supposed to be bad.
That is true.
And then they ripped up the script in the first 2 weeks. Carr looked like a comeback player of the year candidate. He looked like a fringe MVP candidate through the first couple of weeks. And then the wheels fell off the wagon and they haven't won a game since.
Yeah. And it's been ugly in the process. Again, we mentioned during the rundown, the Preds are at Bridgestone tonight, taking on the visiting Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers coming in at 4-5-1. The Predators now on a 4-game point streak following that overtime loss down at Tampa Bay on Monday night, looking to extend that to 5. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well.
Should be a good game tonight. The Preds playing at home. The Oilers, they've gotten off to a poor start as well. Both teams will be hungry to get a win tonight. And, if Nashville can get, especially if they can get a regulation win, get a couple points, man, all of a sudden, right back near 500 and right back, creeping up the leaderboard here.
And Connor McDavid is not expected to play for the Oilers. Is that right?
I think I saw that earlier today. He's maybe out for, what did I read? Like 2 to 4 games or 2 to 4 weeks. He's going to miss a little time, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think he's got an ankle injury. That's not good for a hockey player.
Yeah, couple of weeks, 2 to 3, he's out. Yeah, tough to skate with a bum ankle.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be tough for me to skate with 2 good ankles, but at any rate, yeah. Hey, we talked real quick. Yesterday we talked to Rhonda Blades, Brown, who said that she's involved in the efforts to get a WNBA team here to Nashville. Well, Patrick Mahomes is involved in trying to get a WNBA team to Kansas City, just for what that's worth. I don't like that matchup, Rhonda Brown and Patrick Mahomes, but, we'll be talking some more about that WNBA thing because, as she said, it feels like a natural, the WNBA and Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
We will be delving a bit more into that as we go. That's going to do it for Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join me and David Wilson here tomorrow as we visit with Charles William of the Williamson Herald and John Clay of the Lexington Herald Leader, getting ready for UT and Kentucky. Wade will be somewhere between here in Dunlap, Tennessee. So wish him luck. We'll see y'all at 2 o'clock tomorrow.